Hello, this is psychologist Yulia Latunenko. Today, let's talk about which people in your environment you should avoid. If you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, please do so. Give this video a like, don't forget to do it. This really helps promote my channel on YouTube. And of course, please share your reaction in the comments if you've encountered this type of person. Even if someone has just one or two traits from this list, you should already be a bit cautious and careful with such people. And first on this list are people who create a lot of confusion. They really like it when the situation is ambiguous. They send these mixed messages like, stay there, come here, I love you, and I don't, yes, but no at the same time. And you can't understand the person's attitude towards certain things, toward a particular situation. It's like the person just apologized, and 2 seconds later, they're already making excuses. So situations like these, where there are mixed messages, uncertainty, complete confusion, yes and no, all at once, these are the kinds of people you should try to avoid and not get into close relationships with. Because very often behind this kind of uncertainty, confusion, and saying yes and no at the same time, what is actually hidden is a covert narcissist. That's their trademark. The second point on my list is people who are prone to emotional outbursts. These are the kind of people who yell and don't hold back in their expressions. They might throw or hurl things, bang their fist on the table like this, or punch the wall. People who can't control their emotions are actually very dangerous, and I advise you to avoid them. Third on my list are people who gossip a lot. If you see a colleague at work who tries to gossip with you about other co-workers, you should know that this person will gossip about you as well. So be careful about giving such a person any sensitive information about yourself. And keep in mind that if a person shows themselves to be a gossip in relation to others, they will behave the same way towards you. Who else should you avoid? These are people who avoid you. Well, that might sound a bit redundant, but what I mean is that there are people among us who, without warning you, disappear and then, as if nothing happened, reappear in your life. And they don't even explain why they stopped communicating with you. People who don't respond to your messages, ignore you, disappear, and can vanish even for a long time, and then suddenly, hey there, I'm back. Such people tend to manipulate closeness and distance. These are people who play narcissistic games, hot and cold, push and pull. So be careful with people like that. Of course, there are always exceptions to the rules, and there are cases when, a person was so exhausted that they simply, due to some very tragic circumstances in their life, couldn't respond because of emotional and physical exhaustion. So in such cases, you need to look into the situation more closely. But if a person disappears and then reappears without giving you any explanation at all, that's a red flag. The next point on my list is people who are foolish, who are ill-mannered, who don't understand how to communicate properly with others, and who often say things that can hurt other people. Such people usually read very little fiction or non-fiction literature and have rather questionable moral values. Their intellectual abilities are very limited. They often sit on their phones, consume content in reels, and, never open anything on paper. People who get stuck in their gadgets become more and more detached from reality, so you can't really expect them to react appropriately or perceive reality adequately. That's why over time, such people become uninteresting and there's almost nothing to talk about with them except for some everyday topics. The sixth point on my list is people who give a lot of unsolicited advice, lecture others, make remarks, and criticize. Such people assert themselves at your expense through their lecturing and unsolicited advice. These people bolster their ego and boost their self-esteem by taking a superior, elevated position because they believe they know better than you what you need. That's why it's worth avoiding such people, because in reality, it's impossible to have a close relationship with them. These are people who have very pronounced narcissistic traits in their character. And we all know that people with narcissistic trauma have greatly damaged self-esteem. And it is precisely this low self-esteem that pushes a person to boost it by criticizing and lecturing others. What other kinds of people do I recommend avoiding? These are the people who always turn the conversation back to themselves. For example, you come to your friend and start telling them something has happened in your life and you need their emotional support, or just for them to listen to you, to be present. And your friend, after listening to you for a minute or two, says, "But as for me," and that's where your monologue ends and their monologue begins, all about their life and their supposedly similar situation. Such a person doesn't give you any feedback. They leave you alone with your problem. They're not engaged, not interested in you. And of course, such a person can't be empathetic. So why keep people like that as friends? Of course, you can have some work or business relationships with them. But if you notice from time to time that you're not being listened to, that they're not interested in you, that the person is egocentrically focused only on themselves, then you should consider whether it's worth having a close relationship with them. Maybe it's better to avoid such people. And of course, our list wouldn't be complete without manipulators. You should avoid people who manipulate you, who during a conversation twist things in such a way as to steer you away from the topic and manipulate your feelings. Manipulators especially love to prey on your feelings of guilt and shame. They don't respect your boundaries. They only want to get what they want from you. People also often manipulate when they don't want to take responsibility for their mistakes or for hurting you. So manipulators should also be avoided. But how often do people manipulate by appealing to pity? And you immediately feel the urge to rescue this long-suffering person. You can no longer say no to them. You start feeding them with your own resources, even material ones, not just psychological. Don't rush to save people who manipulate your compassion. And distinguish them from genuine, sincere people who truly need help. So, how do you tell the difference? Well, you need to observe the pattern. If a person constantly complains about their life, how bad it is, how much they suffer, and does nothing to change it, just keeps complaining and complaining, then you are dealing with someone who manipulates your compassion. The next category of people I advise you to avoid are those who devalue you. No matter what you do, they are never satisfied with you. No matter how much you try to meet their expectations, they keep raising them higher and higher, always setting new expectations for you. Usually, this is something that parents, narcissistic parents in particular, are very guilty of. They are always dissatisfied with their children. They never praise their children. They don't notice when their children achieve something. They don't focus on any constructive or positive traits in their children's character or personality. Instead, they devalue and belittle everything. And even if these are your parents, I advise you to avoid close contact with them, not to hope that they will somehow change, but instead to set boundaries and maintain the distance at which you feel completely comfortable. And of course, don't expect that such a person will change. Yes, in your life, it may not only be your parents, but also your friends who like to belittle you And this will only mean one thing, that such a person is envious of you, is competing with you, and therefore cannot find any other way to deal with their envy except to devalue what you have, to belittle your achievements, to dismiss your ideas, and then perhaps to steal your idea and implement it in their own life. This happens very often. So beware of spiteful devaluers. The next category of people on my list are those who interpret your behavior in their own way. They say, I know why you did that, because you had exactly that reason. And these people, they supposedly know better what's going on in your head. They know your hidden motives better than you do. They act as your psychoanalysts. They take on this role and try to attribute to you things you never meant at all. So these are the kind of analyzers, interpreters who aren't in contact with you at all. They don't ask, why did you do that? What was your motive for doing that? What were you hoping for when you acted that way? They just dump their own version, their own interpretation on you about why you acted that way. That's why it's impossible to have real contact with such people, because they're in contact with their own fantasies, not with you. So I recommend avoiding them. And of course, there's one last category of people you need to be able to identify as narcissists and paranoids. Paranoids are those who live with the belief, the conviction that the whole world is hostile. They think everyone wishes them harm. Well, you know what paranoia is. You can read about it on Google. There are such paranoid personalities who project their own hostility onto others, and close contact with them is impossible. And as for narcissists, everything I listed earlier, devaluation, lecturing, arrogance, envy, all of that is characteristic of narcissistic people. And people like paranoids and narcissists, they are incapable of building a genuine, close, warm connection, because there is no warmth there. There is no empathy there. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, please subscribe, give this video a like, and let me know, are there people in your life you need to avoid?